Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here with Brady Sadler, co-designer, I believe.
Co-designer, yeah.
Yes, of Street Masters, coming from Blacklist Games.
Yep.
And hope you could give an overview here.
Yeah, sure.
It looks like things I've sort of seen before. So
Right.
what is different here? What is new here?
So the big selling
here?
point here is obviously it's a theme you don't see a ton of with the like 1990s arcade, fighter genre. We wanted to bring that to the tabletop with miniatures and lots of card decks. So the product model itself is somewhat similar to Sentinels of the Multiverse, where you have unique decks. They're all fixed
for their particular characters.
Right. Yeah. So each fighter is a deck. Each enemy is a deck. Each stage that you're fighting on is a deck. And you mix and match in different ways to set up your arcade mode fight. Because there's two modes of play. There's arcade mode and there's story mode. They both play pretty similarly, but generally, like I said, it's a fully cooperative game where we're just trying to defeat the boss.
Okay.
So once we have our fighters chosen, we'll choose an enemy to go against. Enemy decks usually have a boss or one or more bosses, and then a deck full of minions. Over there, you'll see a bunch of those minions there.
Right.
Come pouring out of the gutters to come fight us. And we'll be the fighters on the board, moving around. Our goal is to take him out. He is either going to take one of us out, or he's going to complete an objective as dictated by the stage.
Okay.
And the stage has its own deck to function, so it kind of functions like its own enemy. It's got its own effects and its own objectives in there. Gameplay, it's mostly card-based gameplay. You're just playing cards, do abilities. You're rolling dice to do hits. We have exploding dice, so when you do a crit, you get to do more dice. So lots of dice chucking going on.
Okay.
So beyond that, like I said, there's arcade mode, there's story mode. Arcade mode's like I explained here, it's like a mix and match modular system. Story mode, it revolves around story decks, and that gives you predefined setups to play through, and it links them narratively. So you'll have a series of stages to play through until you reach the conclusion of whatever story you're playing.
Okay. So what are we starting out with? If I buy, I assume you said the fighter decks are sold separately, but there's got to be a starter.
Well, actually, yeah,
box,
they're going to be in a core set. So what's on Kickstarter now is the core set of Street Masters: Rise of the Kingdom, and we also have a series of expansions available. But yeah, in the core set, you're going to have 6 fighters. You're going to have 4 enemy factions. You're going to have 8 stages, so 4 tiles double-sided. So a lot of stages, a lot of variety with the stages. There are going to be 2 main story decks, and then each fighter is going to have their own little hero story to go through, and that lets you do a little upgrading. So your decks are fixed, but the hero story decks have upgrade cards you can buy, kind of tweak your deck as you go. So it has a little bit of like player development in there. But yeah, and of course that also includes all the components you need: the dice, the tokens, and it's got, I think it's like 65 miniatures. I might be wrong on that count, but it's there's a lot of miniatures in that box.
Okay. And what am I doing with my deck?
All right.
So what makes my deck unique? And
so each fighter has a deck of 24 cards. You have a character card in there, which is like your main person, and it has an ability that's like your default action you can do. Because on your turn, you're going to see you have three steps you can do on your turn. You can move. You can do a card step, which is play a card, and you can do an action step. And you have a few basic actions you can do, including the actions listed on cards.
Okay.
But the cards you have in your hand, they'll provide either new actions, they'll provide exhaust abilities, let you do once per turn abilities, and every fighter has a unique little mechanic to their deck. Like you have Natalia here, where she has she's kind of like a commando type military person, so she has a stealth mechanic where she does a lot of direct damage. She can bypass defense tokens and do straight damage to enemies. And she's got some of her cards have the stealth keyword, and the more stealth cards she has in her discard pile, the more damage she can do, because it represents her sneaking around the board a little bit. And then you have characters like Kyoryu, this guy who's got the power of the Tempest, and he can channel all kinds of different power using these power tokens. Everybody has access to power, but he uses them differently. His whole deck mechanic is about spending power to do awesome attacks. So each of these decks functions pretty uniquely to the fighter, so they stand out not just in their theme, but also the mechanics themselves of the decks kind of stand out.
Okay. How does it change with the player count?
So that
clearly it has to be some sort of adjustment.
Yes.
If I'm going alone versus someone else.
That's
does
one
it
of
have
my
a solo mode.
Yes, it does. Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts, because I'm a big solo gamer. I love playing games alone, and I usually like to prefer.
Well, it seems like that you would need that to recreate the feel.
Right.
Sort of.
Right. You get surrounded and everything. So the way it works is if you're playing solo, you just have you have your one fighter you control. the boss has every boss has a health value. It has a number value plus a P. The P is per fighter, so you just multiply that per fighter.
Okay.
So, and then the other way it scales is you'll see your first step of your turn is your threat phase. So that involves drawing an enemy card and putting it in your threat area. And so everyone has their own threat area with their own minions gathered up. So after you go,
so it's fighting against.
Yeah, they're not necessarily targeting you, but you control their activations. So they'll activate on your turn. So it kind of scales how many enemies come out, when they activate. So it makes your turn more independent. So it makes it, when you add more players on the table, it just increases the challenge as you add more people.
Okay. All right.
But when you increase the challenge, you also increase the power level, because each fighter's deck adds tons of new abilities to the board. So.
Okay.
So yeah, it does scale pretty well. That's one thing that I made sure of, because we built it kind of from a solo standpoint, and then adding each player to make sure it didn't feel like there was any special rules for player scaling.
Right. Okay. Anything else not mentioned?
No, I mean, this is on Kickstarter now. It's got about 8 days left. It's fully funded. We're just getting stretch goals now. So that's that's Street Masters in a nutshell.
Expected release date?
It should be the delivery date's January next year, but we'll see if we can get ahead of that a little bit. But yeah, this one that should hit retail also is around January or February.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I like this lady walking around with her leg out
these
the
are
entire
our,
time.
Yeah, these are our resin minis. It came out pretty nice though. We broke a few of them when we were assembling this, because they're all really delicate.
That's right. Not production.
Right. Yeah, they're not quite there yet, but they look good at least.
All right. Thanks, Brady. Overview of Street Masters.
Yep.
We have no invisible box.
Yeah.
Right now.